presented by Dano Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sun Belt Syndicate right here on the Dog Media Network. I am joined with my co-host TJ Corman as we go through a little bit of college football overall, because we always have to keep in mind the larger landscape, even though we are a little bit Sun Belt specific. We've got some fun for you tonight. So we'll start off just talking about some major big happenings within college football. So TJ, what'd you have your eyes on this weekend?
I think I had my eyes on what the whole entire nation had their eyes on, and that was Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders, Colorado. I mean, it exceeded what I thought we would be watching. I think what Deion Sanders is doing, by the way, the greatest football player to have ever worn a jersey, just throwing that out there. What he is doing to the college football landscape is, in my opinion, unprecedented. He's got guys that are believing in him, believing in the system. He cares about his kids. They'll run through a brick wall for him. I mean, what he's doing right now is, again, far and away, what I think anybody in our country would have or could have expected from him. Yep. I mean, Shedeur Sanders, 510 passing yards. Travis Hunter, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What was it, like 115 snaps or something? Like, he had 60 snaps at halftime.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Over 100 yards receiving, interception, could have had a touchdown that hit him right in the breadbasket. It dropped it. I'll blame that on fatigue. That's fine. He's gonna end up being the most in shape player who has ever existed, or he's gonna get real tired real fast.
Yeah, that's true.
What his workload was insane. But as much as there was good, there was also some bad, right?
Defensively.
Defense missed a ton of tackles. I think, overall they've got to get strong. I think too, the biggest thing with Colorado is they don't have the depth up front that a TCU or a SEC school might have, right? You can tell they got tired. Shedeur was starting to scramble a little bit more as the game went on. Still, that went well for him also. It's hard to say what didn't go well, to be quite honest.
That's very true.
Also nice to have Tom Brady as your quarterback's coach or mentor. So,
can't hurt.
Yeah. So there's that. Your dad's the GOAT, and then you're also getting coached by a GOAT. So, that's part of it.
It's all good.
But overall, like I said, I think they, Colorado did exactly what we hoped, or at least I hoped they would do.
Right. Yeah. I think it surprised me that they won, to be honest, just because where TCU was last season, and it looks like we lost TJ. There he is. He's right back. Disappearing act, but he's right back. So it was, to me, surprising that they won ultimately, but not surprising that they were going to be able to compete. I knew going in, and I'm sure you're like me. I watched all the clips, all his speeches to his players. When he brought in Warren Sapp to talk to the guys, it's just you want to play for this guy. He just wins you over with the way he's talking to you, and he's not talking over you. He's a little bit of a storyteller, which I like, right? He's associating with these kids better than probably a lot of other coaches are these days. It's not necessarily being told exactly what to do. He's talking from real life experiences, and he wants the best for these kids, and he wants them to make money. A lot of these other coaches didn't want NIL to exist, and Deion welcomes it, and he's all for it. He's said numerous times he wants all his players to go pro. He's realistic in the fact that won't happen, but he would love for it to happen. And so it's cool to see a coach who's got that swagger and excitement, and the kids are literally following in his footsteps to try and make it to that next level. And I love the fact that he's literally changing the game.
Absolutely. Changing the game. I mean, and making, and you're going to find, some of these coaches, there's going to be one extreme or the other, right? You're going to love what he's doing, or you're going to absolutely despise it, and it's, there's people who think, I'm sure, that it's not good for the game, and they don't like his bravado. They don't like, the beating of the chest and all that. I say this, you want to shut him up, beat him. And even then you probably still won't shut him up. because that's just who he is. So, but yeah, no, like I said, I mean, Colorado could not have been more impressed than what I saw, especially from an offensive perspective, could not have been more impressed with what I saw.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the offense, let's talk about the team that in one of our former episodes, you mentioned they were so nice to you when you played them on the field that you became a fan of the LSU Tigers.
Yes.
But unfortunately for your fandom with that team, they went down to Florida State, who was one of my picks for CFP. So what'd you see in that one that you want to speak about today?
Yeah, I think, I watched obviously every snap of the game from start to finish. I thought Florida State's quarterback made some terrible decisions in the first half. I thought he played awful football. But, what happens to a quarterback when he settles down is having a good run game. And I think they were able to open up the run game. Second half, our defense did not tackle. That happened. LSU just did not tackle anybody. And it just – when you have, like I said, when you have a good running game or at least a reliable run game, it opens the door for you to be a lot more confident as a quarterback. Second down and 10 is a lot harder than second down and 3.
So absolutely.
So you don't feel like you have to force the ball as much, and I think LSU allowed Florida State to get comfortable, their quarterback to get a lot more comfortable. He made himself a Heisman candidate. In that game, which
he did.
Starting out, I was thinking this guy might not even be a starter, and then all of a sudden, he's a Heisman candidate. So, I think in watching the game, so many mistakes were made in the first half by Florida State, drop balls, and it looked like they picked it up. Second half, like I said, got the run game together, and it helped that LSU just did not show up at all. I mean, they just were not there. So. I don't know what Jaden was doing, jumping over the line of scrimmage, almost died. That was not smart. So just a lot of decisions that a 5th ranked team in the country should not make. But we'll chalk it up to being first game, like we talked about before we went on air. If they can win out, which is asking a lot in the SEC, you've got to obviously beat Bama, and the way they played, the other night, that certainly won't happen if they keep that up. But they still have got a chance. A one-loss LSU team still has a chance. But it's early. We'll see what kind of changes are made and go from there. So I'm cautiously optimistic. We'll put it that way.
There you go. Yeah. Still a great chance. I think that one, because of how it went, I think. Yeah, it's not quite as close as probably people would want for LSU, even if they're going to lose. Say, well, we'd rather lose by just a few, make it look respectable. But I still think with how Florida State looks and how Florida State now is possibly thought to maybe just go and run through the ACC, LSU does, I agree with you, still stand a great chance to be there at the end. Not an easy path.
No,
if
not
they
at
take
all.
care of business, I agree that they should be there. We have a third game that we'll talk about. We're going to save that because that actually involved a Sunbelt team with South Alabama and Tulane. But that was one that quite a few people had their eye on, especially with where Tulane ended up last year and what they are expected to do this year. So that kind of wraps up the overall news, I think, unless, and TJ, got anything else that we had down for this?
No. I would assume that our buddies, our neighbors to the south, don't want us to talk about Clemson.
That's right.
We'll skip them. I don't know what that was. Duke did a number on them. So we'll have some respect for our neighbors to the south.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll get into some clips here then that we've gone over a little bit and want to present to you guys and have TJ share his thoughts on how some of this goes. I'll remind you of the promo code down below for Dan-O's Seasoning. Yum Yum gets you some. Their slogan, Doggos, is the promo code that would help out all the writers at College Football Dogs, all the podcasters at College Football Dogs, everybody else that's a part of the team along the way making these things happen to give out to you guys and put out live for you guys to view and watch. And then we will get into our first clip here. It's going to be from that Tulane and South Alabama game.
Looking at our big defensive tackle.
Yeah. Jenkins. We found out his name was Jenkins. And
Yeah, Jenkins is a man. I mean,
He's legit.
He's a game wrecker, and he certainly wrecked this game.
Oh, yes, he did. So we'll play it through one time, full speed, kind of get the feel and the view of what's going on here in this play. South Alabama on offense, shotgun formation.
Yeah,
and
3rd and 9. I mean,
yeah, you take over because you're going to be able to explain it better than I will.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're looking at, like I said, looking at 3rd and 9, obvious pass down. Center guard tackle to your right. I mean, there's man on man, and they just get beat. I mean, it's not even close. It doesn't even, you're looking at, like I said, our big guy Jenkins, and he completely. I mean, watch this swim move. Watch what he does. So he's going to take his left arm and he's going to put it on the right arm of that, which the center's at a disadvantage because he's got to snap the ball, so he can't get his right arm up as quick as Jenkins can get his left. But look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that left arm. Look at that swim. I mean, he's already by him at half a second after the ball snap. There's nothing that quarterback can do. He's in his lap right now. I mean, and I mean, that's textbook. I mean, he looked like a wide receiver using his hands right there. Look at this. Boom. Left hand swim, getting over the top. Running back's completely oblivious. I mean, even if he did block him, running back, he did a horrible job ducking his head blocking. I mean, it was a blown play from the start. There was nowhere to quarterback. I mean, nowhere he could go with the football. Tulane has got a serious problem up front with that with Jenkins. He is going to be a man to handle out the rest of this season. I think they're going to do well. Yeah,
I think that. Well, we saw another clip before we got to that one. Before we were sharing this with everybody. Now he was also the man in that play as well. So
right,
Jenkins. Yeah. For those that don't know, you need to know. You need to pay attention to this kid because he's coming at you, and he ain't going to take it easy on you. Yeah. So this one is next up from the Coastal Carolina UCLA game. This one was that 10:30 late kick on the West Coast there. Take a look at what we've got with this one. TJ, we're going to have you explain to us whether you think this one may be pass interference. For those watching, it's going to be towards the bottom right of your screen, and then we'll break it down at a little bit slower pace after this one too.
Yeah, you can't see it from this angle. The inside slot guy runs a corner route. I mean, and you'll see 27 hugs him. It's obvious pass interference. I mean, look at this. I mean, what are you doing? And the ref's right here. He's looking right at the play. I don't know. I mean, I'd have probably threw a tantrum had that happened to me. I mean, I think that's blatant and obvious pass interference.
Yeah.
Well, and that does too. We talked about it.
Yeah,
and we talked about it. And what happens, what that does is that's a difference. I mean, I think it's a couple seconds left right before halftime. You're talking about a difference of 14-6 versus 14-10. Huge momentum shift going into halftime. I think that certainly bodes well for UCLA, but terrible missed call, terrible penalty, obvious textbook pass interference.
Yep, absolutely. Like you said, they ended up having to settle for a 41-yard field goal there instead of getting you can remind me between the pro and the college version. If there's pass interference in the end zone at the pro level, it goes to the 1-yard line. Is that the same in college or is that different?
So I do believe it is, and I don't want to I can research it here on my computer, but I do believe it's half the distance if you're in the red zone.
Okay.
So I don't think it's
it's not the pro rule.
They're not doing spot fouls for college football like they do in the NFL. NFL,
gotcha.
Had spotted the ball, and if it's in the end zone, ball's placed on the 1-yard line. So.
Yep. I think they should. I don't know. They seem like they're changing all the other rules. They might as well change that one too.
It's something that needs to be reviewed because I mean that's the difference in that right there is huge. I mean, again, momentum shift, points on the board. I mean, just overall morale. They need to revisit that rule.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. This one is between Army and Monroe came back and won this game. We split the difference on this, if you remember, TJ. You took Army, I took Monroe, and it looked like you were going to take that one for a long time. to the fourth quarter. But Monroe pulls it out. So let's take a look at this play here. This is Monroe on defense. Army's got the ball. They're down by 4 at this point with about 2.5 minutes left, trying to come back here in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I don't like, first of all, anything about his jersey, what he's doing there.
Yeah, well, let's back that up so people at home can get a better look at that one.
Yeah, listen, we're in the blow, and this is the diva. This is a wide receiver diva talking to you, right? Like, my uniform's got to be legit. I got to look good. This is nonsense. I'm not going to – and if I'm his teammate, I'm not going to let him walk around looking like that. That's insane. Yeah. Cover that up, man. Put your belly down. Get your pads covered up. I mean, look like something. What are we doing out here? Anyway, going back to the play. So you're looking. I mean, you got trips out to the left side of the quarterback. We talked about this before. Obviously we went on air. It looks to me, running this play, like he was told pre-snap, we're going to the short side of the field. I don't know why. I know it's 2 minutes and some change, 2.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And I obviously you want to get out of bounds, make a play. But if you roll the film,
yeah,
look at
we're going to
what
keep this on a half speed for you.
Yeah, look at what this quarterback sees. Okay, you got cover 3. Look at your inside slot to the left and your tight end. What is going on?
We're going to back that up so you can see that again, folks, if you weren't looking. But like you said, we looked at this play before we got going here, and he's exactly correct. These guys are just
they're running
down there.
Yeah, running scot-free down the field. I mean, you've got, like I said, you're looking at cover 3 zone, middle of the field is wide open, outside linebacker lets your slot guy get an easy release off the ball. I mean, no one jams him, no one puts a hand on him. Free release for I think that's number 3 to our side. I don't know what the quarterback was looking at. I have to believe that a competent college quarterback would have read the field and made that play. So I have to believe that he was told pre-snap, get it to our guy at the top of the screen and get out of bounds. But I don't know why. You've got 3 timeouts. You've got the full field. You've got 2.5 minutes left in the game. I don't know what the thinking is with going to the short side of the field when you've got 2 defenders to that side and you've got numbers to your wide side of the field. I mean, that's just textbook. Let's get it. Let's take what the defense has given us. We have the whole field to use. I don't know. I don't understand what the process was or what the thought process was there for either the quarterback or the offensive coordinator. Somebody missed an assignment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, TJ, we'll try and nail these clips down a little bit more and watch as much of the games as we can to keep bringing you this type of coverage. And we want to also remind you real quick that this type of coverage is presented by Dano's Seasoning. And we're going to get into an ad. We'll be right back to review week 1 in Sunbelt action.
Yum, yum, get your some. Very good. Yum, yum, get your some. Yum, yum, get your some. Yum, yum, get your some.
Dano Seasoning, food's favorite flavor.
Yum, yum, get you some.
I'm Joe Burrito, your favorite burrito. Whoa, whoa.
Joe, we all know you're the best.
What?
But you can always do better.
What you got?
Try the new Dano's Hot Chipotle.
Hey. Ooh, that's spicy. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum, get you some.
Gotta love it. Naked chickens dancing around, seasoning getting dumped on them. Thank you, Danos, for haunting our dreams with that ad.
Dreams or nightmares, whichever one you decide.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. So getting into what we had with some of our Sunbelt brethren this week. Let's just go in order of how the games happened by time. It's kind of easy to scroll down that way, and kind of makes sense, I think, too, because it'll spread it out, spread the love out instead of talking about all the exciting stuff and then the boring stuff for the end. So Georgia State started off Thursday night against Rhode Island. They ended up winning that game 42-35. I think the offense for Georgia State, put up 42 points.
Yeah.
That's a good mark.
Yeah, I think there's some work to do on defense, obviously.
Yeah.
You let a FBS or FCS, I'm sorry, school, score 35 points on you. That says a lot about your defense. So I think we've got some work to do defensively. But again, like you said, there is a positive. Scoring that many points, I don't care what level it is. 42 points is 42 points.
Yeah, but and I think you can agree with this. You score 42 points, that should give you every opportunity to win the game, right? So
Absolutely, 100%.
It definitely did enough for that. Kasem Hill, for Rhode Island, man. I think we talked about this a little bit. His 7th-year quarterback. The kid was pretty impressive. I mean, he had 2 interceptions, but he also had 4 touchdowns and over 400 yards passing. So that guy was pretty good quarterback. I'd like to see what he could do with a better overall team around. Not diminishing what Rhode Island has done so far, but
Sure.
it is, like you said, it's an FCS team. So I don't know. Maybe he'll get a shot at the next level somewhere. They've got like 4 football leagues in the pros now, so he may end up getting something.
7th year, he ought to be pretty good. I mean, he's somebody's granddad.
Yeah, that's true. 40 years old.
Yeah. What are we doing? There's a lot of COVID years. There's some red shirts in there. There's some injury red shirts. There's a lot of things happen. College for 7 years. First of all, you graduated almost twice. So
yeah,
you
better be a doctor.
You better be something. 7 years in college, buddy. I'm tired. It's time to go. It's time to go home. So let's hope he's good.
Speaking of time to go home, Arkansas State was about time to go home as soon as they snapped the first ball out there in Norman, Oklahoma, 73-0. We talked a little bit before. There's not going to be a whole lot to say about this type of game, but did you see the clip where one of his players was consoling Butch Jones as he's just on the sidelines, kind of squatting down?
Here's the thing about that. If I see an opposing coach cry on the sideline, I'm going to go score more touchdowns. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go score more. Don't cry not as a coach. Like what? Like, it's one thing if you got your seniors crying or somebody's hurt and we're feeling sad. Like, you just got beat, and that's fine. It happens. But what I'm not going to let you do is make a mockery out of our game. If you start crying on the field, and I see that as a coach, as an opposing head coach, hey, starters, let's run this up. Let's
run it again.
Run it until he goes home. We're not dealing with this. Right, what are we doing? What is this? What do we think this is?
I think he's thinking some of what the rest of us are, though. It's like, I got the recruiting class I want. I got these talented players, and nothing is happening for me. So
but it's Arkansas State versus Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma's a lot. Yeah,
that's a huge difference in competition, and I get it. Like, you want to compete, you want to be, and obviously they were not competitive at all in this game. I mean, they let them score. Right. That's a basketball score that Oklahoma put up, and I get it. Be pissed off about it, and that's fine. But listen, it's going to take some time. Things don't just come together overnight. We're part of rebuilding programs. I was a part of a rebuilding program in high school. It took some time. It took until our senior year that we started winning. So these kinds of things take time. But what we're not going to do, we're not going to have our players console our coaches that are crying on the side. That we're not going to do that. Yeah. That's it.
I don't know. I'm glad you shared your thoughts, because I didn't know how to take that. He's like, he showed his coach love, but you're right. I mean, come on, be a man. Don't cry.
But it's a difference if a player's crying. But toughen up, Chief. You've been here before.
Yeah, very true. All right, so now we've got our kind of marquee matchup. Well, at least it was a marquee matchup to start the weekend. I think we might have had one that got a little bit better here. Yeah. But we had South Alabama and Tulane. Mm-hmm. We'll show some highlights here as we talk about this one. Final score 37-17. Not what we really wanted to see. We wanted to see that power stay there in the Sun Belt. I thought South Alabama had a great shot to take this one. I didn't think Tulane would be quite as good this season. It's just law of averages, right? Like, how good can you continue to be? Tulane, before their great season last year, had like a 2-win team. So I thought, maybe they come back to reality, but that was not the case. Like we saw in that highlight with Jenkins, they've got some real players. They've got the quarterback in Pratt. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think up front is where a lot of the damage, I say that as they're throwing almost touchdown pass. Up front, I think was the biggest difference for Alabama, South Alabama. That was the biggest difference for them in this game. I don't think they were able to compete. They didn't have the offensive line that was prepared to handle. And it wasn't just Jenkins. I mean, their whole defensive line was wreaking havoc. Tulane's defensive line, and it's a reason they're ranked, right? They're a good football team. I mean, they were good. They finished last year, really, really well, and I think that carried over. And they came in with a swagger. They knew they were home. They knew they were putting on the show. And the Green Wave really, they showed up. Again, games are won and lost in the trenches. And if you can't block them up front, I don't care how good your skill players are, it's not going to happen. So,
yeah, I think this one a little bit of a letdown, but it's similar to that LSU fact that we brought up. South Alabama still got everything left in front of them, so they can make or break their season after this one. We saw Troy do it last year after a debilitating loss. This one's not quite as, monumentally shocking ending as that one, obviously, but still a long way to go. So not over yet. Jags fans, fear not. You've got the rest of the season to make up for that game. And then we'll get into our favorite team here, TJ, as App State took down Gardner-Webb 45-24. I think the big storyline in this one, well, actually a little bit of the storyline for seemingly not just Sunbelt teams, but across college football, first week of football going live, cracking pads. The tackles just were not falling on the defensive side for a whole lot of teams. That was certainly the case in this one against an FCS opponent there in Gardner-Webb. I will say they have a very high-tempo offense. They were impressive from what I saw. But again, Appalachian does what Georgia State did, which is score 40-plus points, should be putting you in position to win the game. They had their starting quarterback go out with a finger injury quickly. So, Joey Aguilar takes over. And I know that you saw and heard some stuff. We talked this weekend a little bit about him. So what do you think of the scoreline, I guess? Were you surprised by it? Do you think it was acceptable? Or, I've seen some fans be upset about it. And, I heard stuff in the stands. This is a high school team. How we're not beating them by more, which is not true at all. But,
No. I think so. A couple things. Obviously, defense, we've got to be better. And we were first and we started the game well, ended the game well. I think there's a lot of missed tackles, like you said, but that was, that was the case throughout all of college football, right? I mean, you don't, you're going into these training camps. There's not a lot of tackling going on. I know at least when we played, we tackled, I think 2 days out of a 5-day week. So not a lot of tackling going on. You want to stay healthy, and it's nice to finally hit somebody in the other color jersey than what you have on, right? I think that's refreshing. So I think knocking some of the rust off. I do think we'll be better moving forward. I know that Aguilar is. I think he's probably the better fit to start. For our quarterback spot. I think offense will look a little bit different with him at the helm. Again, it's hard to be better than 45 points. But I do think we'll be a little bit more fluent. We've got some beasts at running back. I mean, we've got a stable running back. So I think running the ball won't be an issue, for us. And then going into next week, like I said, it's just, we've got to tackle better. We have got to tackle better. And last time we played Carolina, we did a lot of good and a lot of bad. It needs to be much more of the good moving forward than it does of the bad. So I think overall, to answer your question, first game, knock some of the rust off. And that's the same. I mean, that'll be true for this whole slate of teams that we talk about, these whole slates of games, all of it. First game, knocking some of the rust off. But I think we find out who we are, going into, second, third, fourth game of the season. We'll find out who we really are. Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree. It was a great thing to see when Aguilar came in and threw a touchdown pass on his first pass attempt of the game. That was awesome. Going down to our second favorite team, just kidding. They're at the bottom of our list. Georgia Southern takes down the Citadel 34-0. Not quite, Arkansas State, Oklahoma score, but anything surprise you in that one, I guess? I mean,
I tell you what, I am surprised, and this is me picking nits at this point. 34 points that's fine, but I'm surprised that it wasn't more, right? I mean, Citadel's not a very good football team at all.
No.
We talked about that last week. They're not very good. I don't know. Again, we'll chalk it up to it being rust and first game of the season, working out kinks, new game plans. Also, too, very vanilla game plans, might I add.
Right.
you're not going to see their best stuff. Just like, App didn't show Gardner Webb their best stuff, South Alabama, you go down the list. Nobody's giving their best stuff day one, right? So I get that.
I was going to ask you about that because I hear this a lot, and
Right.
I can see both sides of it. But there's so many people that say we didn't show them a lot. We didn't
Right.
run some of these certain plays. I wanted to ask you how much truth there is to that, because in my mind, you do run a lot of those plays because you want to practice them in live game situations. I understand you don't run them all, or you don't run them multiple times.
Sure.
But I mean, is there a mix of that, or is it really like there's certain stuff that just isn't going to be touched in this game, almost no matter, obviously if it comes closer than it should be, maybe
Right.
that changes.
Yeah.
But like how much of that's actually true? You've gone through it, so you can speak to it much better than most people.
Yeah, 100% true. You never give your best. Now, again, scenarios matter, matchups matter, that kind of thing. You've got Texas and Alabama next week. It'll be second game of the season. Generally speaking, in the second game, you don't give your best stuff. I can guarantee you Texas is going to get their best stuff, right?
Yeah,
they're going to pull out all the stops. So it depends. Matchups matter. Colorado gave, TCU their best stuff. But I think it depends on the opponent. I think in the beginning, and even still, you're not calling your entire playbook, right?
Right.
Again, unless you absolutely have to, games on the line, you're not calling your entire playbook. And to be quite honest, you probably haven't practiced your entire playbook.
Yeah, right. You're in week one, so you don't know it all yet. Yeah.
So you don't, sense. There's still some getting used to things, committing things to memory for, the younger guys, the freshmen, that kind of thing. But no, to answer your question, no, they're not giving their best stuff right away. And again, Gardner Webb, Citadel, Bucknell, we're not giving, Sunbelt's not giving away. It's a very vanilla game plan, is my point.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think we could actually kind of wrap those two in. I mean, they're both very similar scores. So you just mentioned Bucknell with James Madison, 38-3 there. I think, to me, the question is, are both of these other transfer quarterbacks that have come into both of those programs as good as both of the guys they had last year? And to me, that's way too early to say. But the early look tells, the early look tells me probably not. But again, way too early to definitively say that. But I'm just going to be both of those guys, both of those quarterbacks, Vantrease and Centeio, were just phenomenal last year. It's going to be hard to replicate that. It's not a disrespect to the guys that are there now. It's going to be hard to do that. So you're not surprising anybody by either of these programs either. Georgia Southern was coming out of the triple option for the first time. James Madison was coming up to the FBS for the first time. There's stuff on game film. Some coaches know these other coaches a little bit better now. So I think it's going to be tougher for these quarterbacks to be as successful as they were last year. But yeah, I mean, again, James Madison, 38-3, that's fine. I mean, it's not maybe as impressive as you want or think, but it's not going to do you any harm. One that almost did some harm was the Marshall versus Albany matchup, where Marshall kind of escaped there, really, 21-17. I remember, so I'm driving back from Boone, and I probably shouldn't admit this, but as I'm driving, I mount my phone up and run my ESPN app, and I'm mostly listening, but I am checking every once in a while. No, definitely not. It's not in the field of view, but it's close enough where I don't have to look down. Anyways, I had to keep an eye on it because when I checked the score, I couldn't believe this is happening. So, thoughts on, playing a team that it's probably happened to you throughout high school and college. So thoughts on just in general, playing a team that's really catching you by surprise that shouldn't really be doing so. I mean, does it get into your head or like you start gripping the ball harder and making more mistakes because you're thinking about it too much, or what goes on in those types of situations? Yeah,
I mean, in those kinds of games, I mean, I hate to put it on coaching, but preparation is key, right? You want to have your guys ready to run through a brick wall. They were not. They know. Marshall knows Albany is not. They can't play with them. They know that. Right. You and I know that if they played this game 10 more times, they beat them by 30 every time. But it was one of those things where you're sleeping, you're taking teams lightly. They come in, they punch you in the mouth, and you can't ever gain your footing. And you towards the end of the game, you start to get who we are back together. You do just enough to win, and it's a win, and a win is a win, right? You take it, you go home, and you lick your wounds, but you need to be better than that next week. So it's one of those, like I said, I've been a part of it. It happens. You sleep on some teams, and they come back, and it bites you. You pull it out, and you're happy that you pulled it out, but we can't do that again.
Yeah, can't afford to do that. I guess, like you said, it's good to have that kind of a game in week one and get it out your system.
Sure. Yeah.
And luckily for the Thundering Herd, Ali has come back pretty much full force. It did take a little time, just like you said, the whole team, though. It wasn't just him. He comes alive there towards the end, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns he finishes with. So he's right up there at the top of the running back statistics for the league so far, and that's not surprising. Just a little surprising they didn't score a single point in the first half. I'll be honest. I was pretty shocked.
Yeah, that's weird. That's just, like I said. I mean, it seemed like they came out flat. I mean, overall, you got Montgomery 81 receiving yards, touchdown. Like you said, 137 rushing yards for Marsh. I think it was just they came out flat. I mean, there's no other way to put it than that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear as day. You came out flat. Albany should not be on the field with them, and they knew that, and they played that way. They played like they were going through the motions.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that one wakes them up. Speaking of waking up, do we have a sleeping giant in UL Monroe all of a sudden taking down Army in the first game of the year, 17-13?
Yeah, we might. I think the fourth quarter, they put on a show in the fourth quarter. That's for sure. Being able to score 14 points fourth quarter, I think that's huge, huge for them as a team. So, 100 rushing yards for the top back. I mean, nothing super crazy stood out to me in terms of, overall box score wise. I don't see anything that, to write home about, but they did enough to win. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, I think, like you said, with the box score, I mean, this is like the typical Army, Navy, Air Force triple option offense.
Yeah.
You're not going to see a lot of points by either team. Yeah, exactly. This is the game they wanted, and they actually seemed to be in pretty good control up till that fourth quarter. Well, Monroe really turned around. This is what I said to you, is for whatever reason, Monroe has some sneaky good games at home. They really struggle on the road is where they've struggled.
Yeah.
But at home, they've got something. And, of course, to me, thinking about where Army's at, coming down in that heat of Louisiana first game of the year, that's going to catch them boys off guard a little bit. And I think that probably played into it because, like you said, or like we said, is trailing off towards the end there. Monroe got stronger towards the end. Army definitely did not. So probably a little bit of a fatigue factor, dehydration maybe.
It's hot, man. It's hot in Louisiana. Yeah. It's hot in the South. I mean, we're in North Carolina, and it was 101 degrees today.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's also interesting. I did note that at the end of the game, said this is one of those ones as I'm driving, I did not get to see live. So I kind of went back and watched a little bit piece by piece and get to see the entire thing from start to finish. They did replace their starting quarterback towards the end. He had 2 interceptions. So they did replace him. It'll be interesting to see if they stick with him. Moving forward, or if they just, thought it was a one-off. Let's give him some time and see what he can do. But now we will get to the big shock of the weekend. Throughout most of college football, really, I think, obviously if Baylor was ranked, it would have been even higher up there. Colorado's probably the only thing that was going to take that one down a peg. But Texas State goes into Baylor and wins 42-31, their first ever P5 victory. I don't know if you knew that one. I had to look that up because I wasn't sure. But, I mean, what an impressive turnaround Coach Kinney's had. And we've related this before, but kind of like Coach Prime, he's got like a whole roster flip. He's brought in FCS players from Incarnate Word, where he came from. He's brought in coaches from his ranks. And then he's brought in TJ Finley, the former Auburn transfer. And that dude's a grown man. Yeah,
he's a dog. He can play. I mean, he had him ready to play. Coach had his guys ready to play. I mean, they jumped out to a 21-6 lead in the second quarter. I mean, that tells you right there that they were no joke. To be able to jump out to that big of a lead that early in the game, they had a plan and it worked. They knew, they were well coached. They knew what they were going to be up against. They studied film. Everybody on their team knew assignment football. I mean, so, and here's the other thing too. You're talking about guts. 3rd and 3, it's first quarter. Third down, and you run the football and run a 64-yard touchdown or whatever it was. Yeah. I mean, Marty has 4.4 speed, so that's not, unusual, to see him break away. But, 3rd and 3, obvious passing down at middle of the field, and you're running the football, it says a lot about you as a coach, says a lot about you trusting your players to make the right decisions. And it also says a lot about your offensive line and the trust that you have in your offensive line. So, TJ Finley, 298 passing yards, 73% completion rate. That's big. Against Baylor, completing 73% of your passes, that's huge. I mean, 3 touchdowns. I can't say enough about the job Texas State did. I think going and looking back at this game, I think they'll – if they don't get too high on themselves, this will be one of those games that springboards them into being what I fear will happen in that West bracket. So team to look out for.
Too early to say that we were way off on our prediction of Texas State. I think we had them winning like 3 or 4 games at most.
Yeah, I think we were wrong a little bit.
I think we were wrong too. I so badly wanted to put the dark horse stamp on them, but I never did. And it looks like it was a mistake now. Yeah. I like that coach. He won me over as he's talking. He wants to take Texas back, man. That's a big first step in the right direction.
Yeah, taking Texas is a tall order, but you go and route it especially when TCU does what they did, and then you turn around and did what you did. It goes a long way to get the goal accomplished. Now we've got Texas has got to play Alabama. You've got Texas Tech, and there's a lot of schools in Texas, but
and Texas Tech went down to Wyoming, who App has on their schedule.
Wyoming,
It's going to be a tough road, but also we've got Texas State facing another Texas opponent. We'll get to that one shortly. So they really got a shot here to really stamp their seal on the state of Texas, which is pretty interesting. In another FCS versus Sun Belt matchup, we had Alcorn State with 14 points going down to Southern Miss, who got 40 on the board. Again, kind of that line we've been talking about. You score 40 points or more, roughly, you're going to be in good position to win. Alcorn State is a SWAC team, right? Is this one we talked about before?
We talked. Alcorn State, and the same can be said. Really, I mean, Stephen F. Austin put up 30 against Troy, but those 2 games. I mean, you're scoring 40 plus points. You better win. Again, same thing with Louisiana against Northwestern State, 38 points, basically 40 points. You better win those games. But
the Troy one's definitely shocking to me. I mean, Southern Miss had Wiles come in and 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception. He's that transfer quarterback, hopefully the guy that they've been looking for. They don't have a steady back. It looks like they really saved Frank Gore Jr. in that game, by the way. I don't think he even had 30 yards on the ground. He had 1 reception for 7. So they've got their matchup with Florida State coming up. I'm sure that's part of the reason they saved him so much. Sure. This Troy matchup, like you just mentioned, 48 points, great. No problems. Offense, firing on all cylinders against an FCS opponent, just how they should. But, they went up 21-3 in the first quarter. You game over, easy, walking away, and they let Stephen F. Austin come back and cut it down multiple times. Now, again, towards the end there, that one, kind of a touchdown in garbage time a little bit, just under 3 minutes left to make it even look like it's as close as it was. But just, kind of like the App game in that sense.
I was going to say, App, Georgia Southern, same deal, right? Knocking the rust off. Yeah. Yeah,
and, Gunnar Watson still under 200 yards. Does throw 4 touchdown passes. So, and he's got an interception already on this season. That was the issue last year, was the interception count.
We talked about that last week.
Yeah, we'll see if that improves. The one that surprised both of us, I think, a little bit, especially with where we put our friends at the Old Dominion.
I couldn't wait to get to it.
Yeah, Virginia Tech takes down ODU 36-17, but much closer game than it sounded like. I feel like. I mean, watching it back a little bit, Grant Wells, who was at Marshall and then transferred to Virginia Tech, didn't have a great year last year. Starts off this year with 251 yards and 3 touchdown passes. What are your thoughts on how our favorites at ODU performed in this one?
Yeah, I think they put up a valiant effort. Again, there's no, we don't give medals for second place, and there's no moral victories in football. However, if there was a such thing, I think they played well. I think they played hard. I think second and third quarter, they didn't have a great start to the game, but second and third quarter they came on, really started to show themselves and show who they were. didn't have enough to finish. And you're playing a Virginia Tech team. Depth is an issue, right? And it shows itself second half of any ball game. Depth is always going to be the issue when it comes to that kind of thing, just because, they're deeper than you. They have more scholarships to give out than you do. They have more players who want to come in Virginia and play for them. So I get it. But, our friends at ODU, they gave their best effort, and that's all you can ask for. So
well, and you knew they were
no more
looking for
victories, but
right. You knew they were looking for revenge after last year, so it was going to be tough to go into their place and win. As obviously ODU won at home last year, a little different circumstance, so it wasn't going to be an easy matchup, no matter what.
Right.
Our friends down there in Cajun country, Louisiana takes down Northwestern State, also down there in Louisiana, for those that don't know. So it's an in-school game, 38-13. No real struggle there, I'd say.
No.
That's probably about the scoreline I'd expect in a game like this.
Right.
You feel the same way. They got Woolridge going back, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. They had all the statistical leaders in every category pretty much. So,
right. Yeah, I mean, it's what you expect. It's one of those things where, like I said, I mean, Louisiana's better. They know it. They came to play, came ready, and it showed. I mean, giving up 13 points, not bad. So, 38 points, better one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of those teams that kind of returns to form here. I don't know if that – pretty sure we – excuse me – kind of agreed upon that before the season started. But I think the Cajuns could be back and a good start to their season with everything that they went through last year. And then we'll round out week 1 wrap up here with UCLA taking down Coastal Carolina 27-13. Grayson McCall has a very odd game because career-wise he throws very few interceptions. He threw 2 in this one. And Coastal with a valiant effort. We saw the one play where possibly they could have put some more points on the board.
Pass interference. God.
Just overall here, I'm going to let you take it away while I cough this out real quick.
Coastal, I mean, again, you're talking to somebody who loves to hate Coastal. I despise everything there is about them. I don't like them or Georgia Southern. However, you want to see the game played the right way. You want to see it called the right way. And it's not like they were full of mistakes, right? The referees did, it wasn't. But that, right before half, I can't tell you how important it is to have that kind of momentum taken away from you. Going into halftime like that. I mean, 14-6 is entirely different than 14-10. And it's a lot different psychologically, right? Yeah. You've got some things taken away from you. I can't believe that receiver. And again, I hate to keep going back to it, but I can't believe that receiver didn't make more of a fuss about that play because he was obviously held.
I was a little surprised by that too.
You gotta advocate for yourself in those kinds of situations as well. I mean, a lot of times you can influence a call by how demonstrative you are. Again, not being disrespectful, but letting the ref know, hey man, you missed one. And if not that call, maybe they get some get back later on in the game and get a more favorable call. So, but overall, like I said, at UCLA, we talked about Chip Kelly. I thought actually they might score more points against Coastal than they did. But I mean, McCall having 2 interceptions certainly doesn't help their cause. But we talked about coast to coast travel a lot. It all plays a factor. It all plays a role.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to round it up and wrap it up for week 1. And we'll get into a little break here, presenting Bones Coffee, another sponsor of the show and the Dog Media Network. And we'll be right back to talk about some week 2 matchups coming up.
Boy, that's mediocre.
Then what the
are you doing? I was drinking that.
No, you were surviving it. Give excitement a try with Bones Coffee. Click on the link below to order some for yourself. Here. Whoa is right. That substance you were sipping before is what we in the industry refer to as ass water. Sure, it technically has caffeine, but at Bones Coffee, we believe in the experience of waking up every morning looking forward to that first tasty cup. That's why we roast carefully selected beans in small batches to perfection, so you can count on quality in every cup. And not only that, Bones has a ton of fabulous flavors from which to choose.
Hey, did someone mention flavors? Highland Greg, pleasure to meet you.
What'll it be, Greg?
You know, I've been hankering for the spiced rum flavor of Highland Grove, please.
Greg, I'm surprised by the size of your bagpipe.
Ugh, it's not the size of the bagpipe that matters, laddie.
Yeah, it's how hard you blow it.
Yeah, let's leave the talking to me.
Gotta love that one. Gotta love that one.
I said pause like 5 times during that. There was some questionable remarks.
Yeah.
Commercial.
There definitely were, but I gotta love it, man. I did do some sampling flavors. I'll tell you what, if ownership at the business I work at would order it, people would go crazy over this stuff. Every day I roasted some. The smell was just intoxicating. They had like French toast flavor, holy cannoli, which was my favorite. They had maple bacon. They got all kinds of flavors. Seriously, go check it out, folks.
French toast.
Yeah, and they're pretty good. I put very little creamer because I'm not a black coffee guy. I got to have a little cream in there. I didn't want to affect the flavor too much, so I just did little splash, and it was perfect. It was perfect. You still tasted the flavor of the coffee without over muddying it. So yeah, I absolutely recommend Bones Coffee as a person who's actually tried it. Definitely really good stuff. Back from the coffee, we have a 12 noon matchup here with Troy and Kansas State. We just kind of went over with Troy's first matchup. What kind of shot do you give them or you think they have against number 15 K-State going into this second week of Sunbelt action?
I think they got a good chance. I think they've got a really good chance, especially if they come out and play the way that they played, way they can play, the way we know that they can play. I think they've got a good chance to win. I think the offense needs to show up, cutting down on turnovers, those kinds of things. But I do give them a good shot of winning. What say you?
Yeah, I think they're, as we spoke, their offense was fine through their first game. Their defense is really their strong suit, was really what kept them in a lot of games last year, won them some games, quite frankly. They did lose Carlton Marshall, as we've spoken about, which is statistically one of the best linebackers to ever play college football.
Right.
It just may be a bigger loss than some people thought it might be. I mean, I think everybody knew it was a big loss. I think they thought they were surrounded by other good players, and they do have great players on the defensive side of the ball. Just don't know how many of them they still have left. They certainly have less now.
And some people aren't replaceable, and he's one of them, right? You can't just put a Band-Aid over a cap like that and expect it to heal on its own. I think it's a defense by committee now, rather than having your standout, your stud there. So they're going to have to. Everybody's going to have to gear it up a notch in order for them to really kick it into high gear and finish how they finished last year defensively. So I think, like you said, offense we don't really have any problem with. I think filling that void is going to be a big issue. K-State, they don't have Deuce Vaughn anymore because he's with my Dallas Cowboys. So that's so that's a plus. But I do think that it's a tall order for sure.
Yeah. I think. Let's we don't have to do scores, win or loss. I'll go first. Gonna say that defense looks better, but just doesn't have quite enough for a still pretty high-powered K-State offense. Like you said, Deuce Vaughn's gone, but this team still got some good players. Won the Big 12 last year in the regular season. I'm going to say K-State still wins. Hopefully a very competitive game, though.
Yeah, want to see a good game. Always want to see Sunbelt compete. But at the end of the day, like you said, I don't think they have enough.
Gotcha. Well, another Power 5 matchup. We've got James Madison taking on Virginia at the same time. That one's going to be on ESPNU.
Okay.
That one might be a little more likely. I think Virginia's not nearly the team K-State is. So what are your thoughts on the Dukes pulling out their first Power 5 victory since moving up to the FBS?
I don't want to be the guy that's a homer and Sunbelt and this and Sunbelt that. But it's
But
not
this is the show for it. This is the show for
I mean,
it.
it's not impossible, man. I really do think. I don't think Virginia is. I just don't. I don't find them tough. I think they're going to be at the bottom of the ACC. And to be fair, they're bottom of the ACC almost every year. So if there is a shot at us winning a Power 5 game this year, I do think it's JMU over Virginia. I'm gonna go with JMU. I'm gonna go with JMU over Virginia.
I think I'm going to go with that too. Maybe not as confidently as you, but I think they've got the real chance to do it. And I think, going in, if you just look at the quick view, statistically, all of their players got better stats right now than Virginia's players as far as quarterback, running back, and wide receiver go. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's already some stuff in their favor there. Maybe they come in rolling hot from the Bucknell victory and just keep it rolling. I mean, this is like, App State, North Carolina, which is obviously matchups coming up. This is the same exact type of thing, right? This is an in-state team where a lot of your guys didn't get recruited. They're going to hold some of that against them.
There's some bad blood. Yep.
I don't. And you can speak to this again as a player. Does the coach even have to get these guys up for this type of game? I mean, probably not, right? There's nothing that needs to be said. They're ready.
Yeah, they come into this game ready to go. It's no different, like you said, App State, Carolina, no different, in playing a team like that, playing against ECU, who App also has this year. You don't have to. Coach could literally walk in and say nothing and walk out and would make a difference. You're ready to go. You're ready to go. Some of your friends got recruited by Carolina, or in this case, Virginia. They're going to be playing against them. You want to show them I was just as good or better than you. So, no motivation required.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then in another similar matchup, we've got Texas State going to face UTSA. Another in-state game. This one's not a Power 5 program, but UTSA has moved up to the American this year. UTSA did suffer defeat in their first game, and obviously Texas State started off with this win here over Baylor, as we can see. What do you think about this second straight Texas matchup in this one?
Yeah, I'm going with Texas State. How can you not? After what you saw, I mean, there's a 3rd and 3 play that we talked about.
It is.
Minute to go in the first quarter, insanity. Talk about trusting your offensive line. Anyway, we had that conversation. But yeah, I'm going with Texas State again. Why would I? Yeah, I feel at this point it'd be silly to not go with them. Look how big number 70 and 73 are. Those are some what? Those are some big boys.
Yeah, big hole there. And I think you're right. I mean, I'll be honest. Before the season, didn't pick this game to go Texas State's way. After what I've just seen on film, on highlights, on the stat line, absolutely going with them. I think they keep it rolling. I think they're too hot. I mean, maybe at some point they come back down to earth, but I don't think it's this weekend. I think
it ain't gonna be this week.
I think they take over the Roadrunners of UTSA, which is a cool name, but whatever. We'll take the Bobcats winning that one. We've got a Marshall versus East Carolina matchup, and I'm sure you've caught enough of this being, we're over here on that side of the state where Marshall and ECU have played many times in the past under different conference affiliations. That one's a 4:00 kick on ESPNU. As we said, Marshall struggled with Albany, but East Carolina got absolutely trounced by Michigan. Very, very different opponents, obviously.
Sure.
But I guess that leads me to my next thing is like, what the hell happens in this matchup? I really don't know what I should expect here.
I don't know because I don't know which Marshall team am I going to get. Am I going to get Marshall from last year who actually finished the season well, who played well all year? Am I going to get Marshall versus Albany who what was that? What was that about? So I don't know who I'm going to get. If I get Marshall, the Marshall that I know, then I'm going with Marshall, obviously head and shoulders, I think at least by 10 in this game. Yeah. But hard to say because
that's true. If Marshall can open up those holes and Rasheen Ali can run right through them, I'm with you. I think Marshall can take this one, but I think this one's close. I think it's just a slugfest. These two teams have history. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Marshall maybe scores a touchdown or kick an extra point at the end of the game to stretch it out. I don't think, I'm picking them by 10, but it won't be the entire game won't be indicative of a 10-point game. I think it'll come down to, some late game theatrics, that kind of thing. But I got Marshall.
Yeah. I'm going to go Marshall too. I think Rasheen Ali is just that good. And he got going towards the end of the game there finally. Offensive line woke up and let him run through those holes a little easier. So I'm going to take them, and hopefully we can have 2 straight victories against ECU as App faces them the week after. But in another matchup with an FCS opponent, South Alabama gets to rebound from that tough Tulane matchup and faces Southeast Louisiana. Do you think there's going to be much of a game here in this one?
No. Yeah, no. I got South Alabama going away. I would say, if you had me pick a score, I'd say for sure they're going to score 40 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll do quite well in this one too. Southeast Louisiana's been an on and off FCS playoff team. I'm off the top of my head, I can't say whether they, were a playoff team the last year or two or not. So they may have some players, and they may put up, maybe 13 to 20 points, maybe. But the South Alabama defense is pretty good.
Yeah, it won't be close to enough.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very similar to some of these scores we've seen from last week with the other FCS matchups.
Agreed.
High 30s, low 40s to 13 to 20, kind of thing. But maybe South Alabama post a shutout after getting pissed off with that.
I was going to say they might be pissed off.
And then we've got the matchup we will both be at as North Carolina once again matches up with App State, and we'll see what happens on this round. We've had the first 2 games in this series end with a 3-point victory for App State, a 2-point victory for North Carolina. So a total of 5 points separates these 2 teams. And I realized I never added this to the screen, but here we go. Here's some highlights from last year's action as Nate Noel breaks open a run to open the scoring for App State in last year's matchup. Go ahead. What do we got in this one, TJ? I know you're looking forward to being there Saturday on this one.
I don't. Oh, man. Drake May I said it last week. He scares the hell out of me, man. He just does. Yeah. But I will say this. I don't think the team around Drake May is as good as they were last year. I don't think they have the talent that they once had. I think our running game is really, really strong, especially once we get it going. I think we're, head and shoulders above them as it relates to being able to run the football. But I do think they do edge us out passing. So in areas, so I think, apples to apples, I guess you can call it. It should be a close game. I hope it's a close game. I hope it's a really good game, obviously, for you and I, because we'll be there. Right. And obviously, I'm picking App State to pull it out. But I got us, neither team stopping either one, 42-38.
Ooh, so another kind of score fest. I like it. My parents are actually coming all the way down from Pennsylvania for this one, so I'm excited to share that. Too. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So we talked about this. So hopefully this weather holds off, because I don't know if you've seen that forecast, a little thunderstorm action. Early on. So
that was me running down the sideline. You see that?
Yeah, the yellow jersey. That's right. You're famous. Oh, I also need to tell you, you made an appearance on the scoreboard this week at the game.
Did I?
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what you're saying, but it's from the Michigan game. You're yelling something to the bench as you're.
I said a lot of stuff. I say a lot of words.
Maybe you're yelling to people. Yeah. I'd seen the clip before, but they put it up on the board. I was like, oh, that's cool. I got to tell TJ that. And I totally had spaced on letting you know that. But yeah, you made an appearance on the board, big screen on Saturday. So you were up there, man. So my pick before the season was actually to take UNC, as I thought they might lose to South Carolina and open the year, and they'd recover because they're coming back home, really wanting to get a win. I think I might flip it. I'm agreeing with you that we should have the rushing attack on our side. Here's the thing, the curveball, the oddball that they're not going to be prepared for, in my mind, which is Joey Aguilar. I said before the season I thought he'd be the starter. He provides a little bit more than Berger did. And that's no offense to Berger. He didn't get enough of a time to prove himself. But in what we did see, I have to say that I see and trust Joey a little bit more at this point. That offense really responded when he came into the game last week. And I think he keeps it rolling. So in these highlights here, we see Chase Bryce, not mobile quarterback at all. On the other hand, Joey definitely is. He's not going to be running all the time, but he's very capable to make plays with his feet. And so I think that's going to be the part that hopefully this UNC defense just isn't ready for. He doesn't have a lot of stuff on film. He didn't really have to run much.
I was scared to say he's not. Yeah, I was just scared to say he's not a lot on film.
But when he did run, he had the two guys trying to take him down. He truck stick both of them, and then a third guy came in to try to wrap up his feet, and he never touched the ground. So he's got impressive wheels and deceiving power. He's not a huge dude. But he definitely knows how to deliver the blow to the defense who's coming at him. So I think that's enough of a curveball that hopefully plays to App's advantage and can help them spring yet another P5 victory, yet another victory over UNC, an in-state opponent. And we should be happy as hell if that were to happen for us as we're there this weekend. In a game that we don't care if Georgia Southern loses, they match up with UAB down there in Statesboro. This game at Polson, this is their second straight home game. But you've got Trent Dilfer, head coach, Super Bowl winner, on the other side, sideline, I guess I should say. What do you think about this matchup with your favorite rivals and the Blazers of UAB?
Yeah, I think UAB is going to be ready to play. That's for sure. They're certainly going to be well coached. Got a lot of respect for Trent Dilfer. A lot of respect for what he did in the NFL, especially, obviously he wasn't a catalyst on that 2000 Ravens team, to them winning the Super Bowl, but he did his job, right? He did what he knows the game. He knows the game. And that's the biggest thing is those guys are going to be well coached, are going to be well prepared. It's again, always hate Georgia Southern, but I respect their program enough to know that they'll also be prepared. I think it'll be a pretty good clash. If I'm giving the edge to coaching, I'm taking UAB. The difference in setting won't matter as much. You traveling, I mean, it's hot. It's going to be hot regardless. It's going to be hot in Florida. It's going to be hot in South Georgia. Doesn't matter. But home field advantage, UAB, better coaching, UAB, similar athletes. I'm going UAB, but in a close one.
You don't think you don't put Clay Helton above Dilfer for right now, or
No. And there's no disrespect, but I think Dilfer, what he's going through and it's like a Deion Sanders effect. Obviously, he wasn't Deion Sanders, and he didn't do what Deion Sanders did. But it's a different level of coaching, a different level of preparation when you've seen the other side, the next level. Right.
True.
And you know what it takes to get to that next level, so you can see it a little bit better and coach it better, and you get your players to respond to you a little bit more because they know, you've been there and you've done it and you climbed that mountain. You're wearing a Super Bowl ring to practice. Those kinds of things. It resonates. It matters. And I can tell you as a player, seeing some of the guys. I mean, Dexter Coakley came in and had a conversation with us. I can't remember. I think it was my freshman or sophomore year. And we hung on every word he said because it matters. He's been there. He's played with the Dallas Cowboys, won him a Super Bowl, and those kinds of things. It makes a difference to players. So not to keep rambling on about it, but I do think having Trent Dilfer as a coach, I think it edges out just a bit more.
Sidebar: do you have a Dexter Coakley signed Cowboys jersey in your house?
I do not. I should, but I don't. I know. I don't. I didn't. Well, and I had a Cowboy jersey at the time that he came. I didn't have it, obviously, in the locker room. Didn't know he was even going to be there. So,
okay. This is a surprise appearance.
Right. So, there's that part.
Oh, man. Well, he's around the program still. I've seen him on multiple clips and seen him at games. You can just tell when you walk by that there's an aura about that guy. He's somebody, without even recognizing him when I saw him because he had a hat and the glasses on. I'm like, I don't know who that is, but he's got something to do with this program.
And he was a dog too. I mean, like I said, those glory days for those Cowboys. Those were my teams. He still is my team. But yeah, he was a dog back then, and he's probably still a dog now.
I was going to say he looks like he could hit the field right now, today.
Right.
Like what I've seen from him, he's still in phenomenal shape. So I'll throw this out there. I'm not trying to get Sean Clark out here like some other people, but I would love to see a Dexter Coakley coached App State football team, man. I'll tell
Wouldn't
you
be
what.
mad about it. Wouldn't be mad about it.
Wouldn't be at all. So speaking back on the conference, we got a conference matchup early this year. We've got Louisiana going against ODU. Kind of talked on this. I think I know your feelings. I know my feelings are that the Cajuns will win this one. However, it is on the road there in Norfolk, Virginia. So you think anything different? Think kind of along the same lines there on that one?
Yeah, I think they still win it. I don't think by as much as I initially thought last week going into it. I think ODU did play Virginia Tech pretty well, or as well as they could, right?
Yeah.
Given the circumstances. But so I don't think it's a blowout. But I do think, Louisiana pulls it out. I would say, 15, 17-point favorites.
Yeah, I don't think I can disagree with that much. It looks like the line is 6 or 5. It's a little far from my screen, but I think I'm in agreement with you. If they win that game, which I think they will, it's going to be more than that.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely be more than that.
I don't see it being a 5-point game. All right, interesting one here. We've got Jacksonville State just moved up to FBS.
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville State in Alabama, by the way. I think you knew that, but just in case our viewers don't know, there's like Jacksonville in like 17 states, so it is an Alabama school.
Right.
But they will travel to Coastal Carolina and play there in Conway. Do you think the Chanticleers rebound well and take care of business against a former I'm not even sure which conference they were in FCS.
I was waiting on you for that information because I forgot.
Yeah, maybe Big South?
What? I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, either way, the Gamecocks of Jacksonville State come in with a 2-0 record, though. So I think they're going to get an abrupt welcome to the FBS from Coastal Carolina after Coastal lost to UCLA. They really thought they were going to win that game going in.
And they should have won. They could have won.
Yeah, I think they could have. I think that one, heck, if it was played a little bit better times-wise, I think that would have made a pretty big difference there too. But, yeah, it won't happen because it's already done. They're our 14.5-point favorite. So that tells you right there where most people think this game's going to go. So
yeah, and I'm in agreement with it. Yeah. I think Coastal at home and they, bounce back game, they're going to be pissed off. Again, hate them just like I hate Georgia Southern. But respect factor, respect their program. Respect what they're about, and I know they're going to come out at home ready to play.
Yeah. I think, they beat Kansas at home a couple times there, or at least once at home. I know that they beat them on the road too, but I think they'll be ready for that one. Interesting matchup here. We've got UConn matching up with Georgia State. This one is also still in Atlanta. We saw Georgia State score plenty of points, but allow plenty of points. We saw UConn have a very respectable showing against NC State after getting trounced last year by NC State. So it looks like this UConn team has really improved. Oh, by the way, they're not unfamiliar with the Sun Belt as they played their bowl game in Conway, South Carolina. Obviously, this one is quite a bit away in Atlanta, Georgia. However, I don't know. I think this UConn team's really improved from what I've seen. So what do you think on this one?
Yeah, I think UConn pulls it out. I think they showed they had a really good showing against NC State. Not that NC State is a measuring stick by any means. NC State's a fairly decent program. I mean, in comparison to UConn, light years ahead. However, I think that they did a well enough job that I think they take it. I think it's unfortunately, I do think that that is a loss for the Sun Belt in that regard.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, I'm going to agree with you. Although, I will say this, as I'm saying that, I'm reading this. The line favors Georgia State by 3, which is surprising to me.
Yeah, I don't know that Georgia State can stop anybody, though.
That's my other thing is, like, you go down to Atlanta, and have you been to a game there since Georgia State's renovated that stadium?
No, I have not.
Okay, but you've seen it on TV, I'm sure, or on ESPN Plus. There's nobody in the stands. It's unfortunate. Right. But it is what it is. They don't have a home crowd that's going to win them games, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. And UConn's probably similar in some regard. I don't think they have, like, massive home crowds, but they do have a big stadium. So, it's not that they couldn't have it. I think there was a lot of people there for the NC State game. But regardless, I think UConn's just better than they have been these recent years. They've got some NFL talent on their team. Yeah.
Right. And I think they're just overall better than Georgia State. Georgia State can score points, but they can't stop anybody from scoring. UConn's defense is good enough that they'll do the job that they need to do against Georgia State. I think Georgia State scores maybe mid to low 20s, but they don't stop UConn from scoring 30.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. I mean, only thing maybe you can hope for is a UNC App State type shootout, and Georgia State comes out on top because they just score more.
Right.
But yeah, I think I'll favor UConn in that one too. All right, Memphis versus Arkansas State. On paper, especially after last week, you're just going to say Arkansas State gets clock clean. However, is there any chance after a blowout loss like that, they rebound well? This is a big rival. It's like an hour away.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Arkansas State flipping the script here?
Well, if those tears meant anything by our ball coach, then it should resonate well with the rest of the team. I don't know that they have enough to beat Memphis. I do think they'll keep it close. Again, we can't judge Arkansas State by their loss to Oklahoma. You just can't. I mean, that's just like App State losing to LSU my freshman year and senior year. I mean, you can't judge us by that, right?
Right.
But what you can do is take away what you saw. And what I saw mid to late of that fourth quarter was the Arkansas State team that kind of gave up. They didn't keep fighting. And that can't be the mindset that you go into playing Memphis with. I think they won't. I think, that's not it. When you're getting beat by 70, it's easy to throw the towel in. But I think, too, playing Memphis, it's like you said, it's a rival. And it's one of those games where they want to put on a good show. And like you said, they're pissed off from last week. And we don't want to see our coach cry anymore. So let's go play some good football.
Yeah, we can't be having our coach cry on the sidelines repeatedly.
That's insane, man. I've never seen that in my life. I don't think I've ever. What happened? I mean, I watched some of it. I didn't watch, obviously, enough that it mattered. And then I was watching ESPN, and I was like, "What? What is happening?
Yeah,
is he crying?" Sure enough.
There's no crying in baseball.
Yeah,
or football.
Right. We're not doing this.
No, I think Memphis won this game 44-32 just last year.
Mm-hmm. Close enough, right?
Maybe a similar type. Yeah, I think it could be close. I mean, the crazy thing here is Memphis favored by 21.5 points. I think that's a little crazy. I mean, Memphis scored 56 last week. They played Bethune-Cookman.
Right.
It's just not a fair fight. So
they played my high school essentially.
Yeah. So it's just not. I don't know. I think they put too much in the stat line from that game and say, "Oh, they scored this many. Arkansas State scored 0." Like you said, Oklahoma is not equal to Bethune-Cookman. It's just
no.
So you're going to see
a measuring stick.
Yeah, this is going to be the measuring stick. This matchup right here is a whole lot more of a measuring stick. G5 versus G5 rivals. So I think this one should be exciting. I am going to favor Memphis, unfortunately. I think
favor Memphis, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it wouldn't shock me if Arkansas State won. I really hope they win. I think
I want them to win for the sake of our conference, absolutely. But I don't know that they. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they'll have enough. They're going to Memphis, correct?
That is no, they're hosting this year. They were at Memphis.
Okay, hosting. Okay.
Yep.
Home field advantage does matter. I don't know.
Yeah, I hope their fans show up because I think there's going to be some people that are just really disappointed with how last week went. And once again, we'll reiterate for the 16th time, it ain't going to be telling of how your whole season goes.
No,
it's not.
It's not. It's not indicative of the rest of the season for sure.
Yeah. So it sucks, but we're moving on. Don't even watch the film. Move on to the next one. All right. Speaking of moving on, we'll move on to this game against Monroe playing Lamar, another FCS opponent. They're also hosting again at home. I don't really see them having any trouble with this one after beating Army.
Yeah, not much to talk about here. UL Monroe, far and away.
Yeah, I think the only question mark like we both have is that secondary quarterback going to get the start in this one?
Really,
that's probably the most interesting thing that comes out of this game.
Right. It's
And maybe how many yards Howell has, because
Right.
he's one hell of a wide receiver down there. All right.
He is good.
So,
He is really good.
yeah, the nightcap, 8:30 start on ACC Network. We've got Southern Miss going up against number 4 in the country now, Florida State. Any chance at an upset?
Yeah, not close. I like Southern Miss. I think they're on the come up. We talked about them a lot last week as one of those surprise teams that could have a really great season or not so great season. You know, played a lot of close games and they're on their way. But, you know, I don't think Florida State, I mean, come on. No, it's a no for me.
Yeah, I had some hope for this one before the season started. I still didn't take them to beat Florida State, but I had better thoughts until I saw the Florida State game, and I'm just like,
Well, I will say this. If Florida State played the way they played the first half against LSU, they'll have a chance. Because Florida State did not look good in that first half at all. Quarterback didn't look good, could not run the ball well. Defense didn't tackle. They did not look good. A lot of drop passes in the first half. They're big. I think they're 6'7", was he number 14, the 6'7" wide receiver for Florida State. Dropped a lot of balls in the first half.
Okay.
So if they play the way that they played the first half, Southern Miss will have a chance. I just don't see it happening because I think they got that first game rust off of them, and I think they come in being who they know they are.
Yeah, I think it's not equivalent, right? Because it's not only just different teams, it's different seasons. They did have Miami within 3 points at the half last year. Southern Miss did.
Yeah.
So, like you said, if it's a slow start for Florida State for whatever reason, your chance to pounce is in the first half of this game.
Has to be.
Yeah. You're not. It's a depth issue. They're going to wake the hell up if they're losing issue.
Mm-hmm.
You have to jump on them early and just keep the gas pedal down if you've got it. I think the only hope too is if Frank Gore just goes off. I think you're going to need him to literally throw a touchdown, catch a touchdown, and run a touchdown in.
He's gonna have to Vince Young this thing.
Yeah, he might have to, and maybe that's why they saved him so much in that Alcorn State matchup.
Maybe
so. It's going to be one I'm going to check in on because, like you said, if there's a chance, I'm going to be watching. But if I have to put money on it, no, my money's on Florida State to take this. I think they're strong.
Absolutely.
They were a college football playoff team for me before the season even kicked off. I thought they beat that LSU team in the first matchup. They did. I don't see that train slowing down. But, hey, if someone's going to do it, I'd love for it to be Southern Miss. Bring that into the conference, another P5 scalp, and we'll just all celebrate together. Until they come to Boone and play App State, then the celebration from our side will stop.
Yeah. Right.
Well, TJ, that wraps it up for our Week 2 preview and wrapping up everything that happened in Week 1. Where can the fine folks find and follow you on the multiverse or whatever the hell we call this social media thing that we do these days?
Absolutely. You can find me at on Facebook at J. Corman. Instagram is at Mr. Corman 12. Also Instagram, Thick Thighs and Large Fries. Don't forget to check us out. I actually have a new post up tonight. Did some beef tips and peppers. So
nice.
little keto, little something to, if you're watching your weight like I am, little keto to get you a nice meal, but also lose some weight. So find me there.
Absolutely. And you could find some of the both of us. We'll do some stuff together, especially hopefully this weekend. I don't know if we'll end up in the same parking lot or not. We'll attempt it. And if not, we'll try and do something in the stadium real quick for you fine people out there at Sunbelt Syndicate. That's across all social platforms. The only one that's any different is the Twitter one because the E didn't fit. And until next week, after App State takes down UNC, we'll see you later.
Sunbelt Syndicate.